life, there's three things. There's our ability to choose what we're focused on, or to commit, to get a result, to put all our intention and focus into something. There's our ability to do the right things, to have the right strategy to execute. And then there's some grace. There's what some people call luck, some people call grace. There's if you do the right things over and over again and with total focus, sometimes, you get good fortune that comes your way. And you tend to have more good fortune when you're totally focused and decisive and you take lots of action than if you kind of just sit around and accept things like you don't have a future. What do? Decades ago, half a century ago almost now, and someone says to you, go to the back of the bus, and you're African American. One woman just decided, you know what? You can't take my dignity from me. I can only give that up, and I don't choose to give it up. And I will not go back to the bus. The answer is no. And Rosa Parks changed an entire society. Because that day she chose to focus on something else. She gave it a different meaning. This is not a command. You do not have control over me. And she decided to fight. And she changed the direction of a country and of many other countries. She started something. We forget that you don't have to be famous to have the ability to change at least your own personal history. Change the direction we go in our life. We have the power to choose, even if you haven't before. You can finally say, no more, I won't put up with that. Within myself or from anybody else. And here's what I'm going to do differently. That's where the breakthroughs really start to happen. Now the question is, why do some people stand their ground and make something change versus other people just kind of accept things? Why do some people make bold decisions and other people make decisions that are based on trying to hang on to what they've got? Well, that's a more complex question to answer than we might have in a few minutes in this one session, but it is one that I've spent my life studying. Because when you can change your decisions, you can change your life. When you can change the force that controls your decisions, you can change anything in your life. At some level, we have certain beliefs and values. But if I was going to make it simple, I'd say there's two things that determine your choices. The first thing is the state of mind and emotion you're in at that moment. Think about it. Have you ever snapped at somebody and had nothing to do with them? It was just the state you're in, right? You're frustrated, you're pissed off about something, and in that state of mind, whatever they said got interpreted to that state. And you made it a meaning like they were irritant or they were interrupting you. They weren't. Probably felt bad afterwards. When we get in the wrong state, we make the wrong decisions. When you get in a strong, empowering state, you'll make a better decision. Learning how to direct your state is a big part of what my work is with people, and it's a big part of what I do in my seminars. But the other thing that affects your decisions would be what I would call your story or your blueprint. We all have kind of a story about how our life is supposed to be. It comes from a set of life experiences, interpretations. Some people think life is all about getting there. Some people think life is about growing and contributing. Some people think life is about making judgments. Some people think life is about saving other people's lives. Some people think life is about being successful. Some people think God is the basis of everything, and the way to know God is to go through life in a very specific way, with a set of rules, and they follow it. And that's what they believe. Whatever your story is, whatever your blueprint is just another way of saying, whatever you believe is how your life is supposed to be, at some level, we either follow that blueprint or we fight it. If we follow it or we fight it, we're going to find that we're going to bump into things in life where life isn't always the same as we expect it to be, or think it should be. And that's when we start to experience stress.
When you make love, do you breathe in unison while you're making love? And invariably the guy would go, huh? And I'd say, let me explain. You're here telling me about all these things you're upset with each other about. And you can talk about these things to your blue in the face, but the real problem is you don't feel connected, you don't feel loved. And I said, you don't have that feeling of total oneness with each other. And talking more about this is not going to change it. So if you really want to change this, I suggest you do this. And if you do what I'm telling you, you still need me, I'll give you one of my lunches. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go home and I want you to make love for an hour and a half minimum. And while you're doing it, I want you to breathe in unison the entire time with each other. Because what happens is you feel totally connected as one. out of, who knows, 3 to 4 dozen people I asked to do that, only one person ever called us back and wanted to be able to do a session. Because the bond is there. So try it. Not now, later this evening. Plus, the great thing about mirroring somebody's breathing, it's very subtle. No one's going to jump on their chair and say, "Would you stop mirroring my breathing?" They're not going to notice. So you got breathing, you got posture, you got gestures, you got facial expressions, you got eye contact. What else could you mirror? Come on, use your brain. I know the answer. I want to see if you can come up with it. Come on. What else could you mirror? Proximity. Good. What does proximity mean? Proximity means everybody has a certain amount of space that they need to be comfortable. And it's different for every single person you're going to meet in your life. One skill you want to master in this day and age that we live in, if you want to have an extraordinary life, it's the ability to learn rapidly. Because today, there is more opportunity to do more things, learn things, create things, experience things than any time in human history. But most people are way, way, way behind the times unless they grew up with technology and learning. So I would like to start this morning by showing you the strategy for learning. What is learning? So if we take a human being, and this will be a drawing of a human being so you can see that again I majored in art. Magnificent, isn't it? So if we take a human being and we want to be able to have them learn something, what is learning? Well, learning is the creation
that does not represent the highest in me. You decided that even though I have 8 children that I'm not taking care of, I just see women as a receptacle for my orgasms. You decided that you're going to throw your life away for crap. When you look in the mirror, you should have contempt for who's looking back at you. Because now you're no good to yourself or those 8 children that you have. Don't tell me about the man. Tell me about the man in the mirror. And look at your life. Here's what I know. You're stronger than anything that you're facing. Anything. And when you harness your will, when you retrain your thinking, when you jump out of line, when you decide to become an independent thinker, when you make decisions, see, if you just do 2 or 3 things well, listen to me, if you do 2 or 3 things well and just make the decisions not to do a variety of things wrong, like following the crowd, like doing drugs, like drinking and partying and wasting valuable time. If you decided not to do a lot of things wrong, you can make it in this thing called life.
What I've learned is that I can break it down into 4 pieces, right? There are four things, 4 characteristics. One is parenting, the other one is technology, the third is impatience, and the 4th is environment. The generation that we call the millennials, too many of them grew up subject to, not my words, failed parenting strategies, where, for example, they were told that they were special all the time. They were told that they could have anything they want in life, just because they want it, right? They were told, some of them got into honors classes, not because they deserved it, but because their parents complained. And some of them got A's, not because they earned them, but because the teachers didn't want to deal with the parents. Some kids got participation medals. You got a medal for coming in last, right? Which the science we know is pretty clear, which is it devalues the medal and the reward for those who actually work hard. And that actually makes the person who comes in last feel embarrassed because they know they didn't deserve it. So it actually makes them feel worse, right? So you take this group of people and they graduate school and they get a job and they're thrust into the real world, and in an instant they find out they're not special, Their moms can't get them a promotion, that you get nothing for coming in last, and by the way, you can't just have it because you want it, right? And in an instant, their entire self-image is shattered. And so you have an entire generation that's growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations. The other problem, to compound it, is we're growing up in a Facebook, Instagram world. In other words, we're good at putting filters on things. We're good at showing people that life is amazing even though I'm depressed, right? And so everybody sounds tough, and everybody sounds like they got it all figured out. And the reality is there's very little toughness, and most people don't have it figured out. And so when the more senior people say, well, what should we do? They sound like, this is what you gotta do. And they have no clue. So you have an entire generation growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations, right? Through no fault of their own. Through no fault of their own, right? They were dealt a bad hand.
Living in the present. So often our mind is either in the past, focused on what didn't work out, who did us wrong, mistakes we've made, or it's in the future, thinking about our goals, worried about our finances. What if my health doesn't improve? The problem with being in the past or being in the future is you will miss the present. David said, "This is the day the Lord has made." Today is a gift from God. Are you fully engaged, making the most of each moment, loving your family, appreciating the simple things in life? Or are you in yesterday? Are you in tomorrow? The reason some relationships are not healthy is you came home from work, but you didn't really show up. Your mind was somewhere else. You played with your child, but you were in tomorrow, thinking about how you were going to accomplish that goal. Or you went to the office, your body was there, but your mind was in yesterday, thinking about what you should have done better. If you're going to be fulfilled, you have to show up for life. You have to be there when you get there. Not show up and be in the future, worried about how it's going to work out. Not show up and be in the past, live in regrets, dwelling on your disappointments. Come into today. Yes, it's good to have goals. I'm all for having vision, but you can't be so focused on what's next that you miss what you have right now. I know people that lost what they had going after what they wanted. They were so intent on reaching their goal, doing great things, that they took their family for granted. They came home, but they weren't there. They were distracted, thinking about what was next, planning for the future. They never came into the present. Victoria and I used to travel to India with my father. We had been married for a couple of years, and on this particular trip, on the way home, we were going to stop in Paris. My father was going to minister there for a few days, and we were so excited. Our first time being in Paris together. Before we left home, we put an offer in for a house that we really wanted to buy. We had sold our townhome, and we found this place that we loved. Had a nice yard and big trees, and the house was so light and open, it was perfect. When we arrived in Paris, the first thing we did was call our realtor and ask if she had heard anything. She said nothing. The next morning, we woke up, called the realtor. Any news? Still nothing. During the day, we would go out and look at sites. The whole time, we were talking about that house, believing we were going to get it. As we walked the streets of Paris, we took pictures of things that we'd like to do to our new house. Here's a front we could put on it. Here's how we could do the landscaping. We were in Paris, but we weren't really there. Our mind was somewhere else. We were in the future, all the while missing the present. We could have been making the most of that moment, enjoying the sights, taking in that beautiful city. But because we were so focused on what we wanted, we missed what we had. If I could go back now, I'd say, Joel, enjoy where you are. Be present. At the right time, the doors will open. The opportunities will come. But while you're waiting, stay in the now.
And so, this is why we are here, and this is the meaning of retreat. It's a retreat from yourself in order to find what the Buddhists would call the no self, or what other teachings would call the deeper self, or the Atman, or your Buddha nature, or the Christ within, whatever term you want to use to point to it. And that's why we're here. So all the external things here are helpful. It's easier here to connect with the depths of who you are and realize the depths of who you are. Of course, when you leave here, then you get challenged again. It's not that you don't get challenged here too, and especially if you're still very much identified with the mind, you find many challenges wherever you go. This isn't right. Don't like that. He doesn't look very spiritual to me. Or the opposite, all these people are so much more spiritual than me. Do they know that I'm not spiritual? So the practice is to voluntarily, as much as possible, relinquish identification with the thinking mind and your usual self. And what very much helps with that is just as much as you can. Don't walk around as a heavy personality and person with it. No, walk around as a light, as a field of conscious perception, and like a little child, it goes and look at everything. In other words, presence practice. Here, it's more easier than in your usual surroundings. Presence practice, present moment practice. There's a lot of nature here. I recommend taking walks in nature, looking at the trees, at the sky. There's a lake, the grass, the flowers, many, many lovely things. Be as present as you can and alert. And as you walk around from one building to another, from here to there, really perceive. That already is a liberation from the usual self, because you're not thinking. You cannot really perceive your surroundings fully when your usual self is talking to you. And it's probably not talking about this present moment. It's talking about what you're going to encounter when you get back home, or what happened last week, or it's doubting that being here is actually a good thing, or it's criticizing something that shouldn't really be here, but it's here. You don't want to, because that's not a retreat. You haven't really retreated. You've retreated on the external level, but you have not used this opportunity to retreat from your usual self, your usual mind.
Paying attention is being present, and it's a skill, just like golf or tennis. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. And you know when someone's present with you in your life because they're paying attention to you, and you know when they're not present with you because they're not paying attention to you. So now, what's the relevance of that? Well, there's an intelligence that's giving you life that's always present, and many people don't take the time to connect to it by being present, right? So if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and all of your attention is in the present moment, you got a lot of energy in the present moment. Now think about this. When I talk about being present, I'm saying that once you fall into the generous present moment, according to the quantum model of reality, all possibilities exist in the eternal now. So most people, they wake up in the morning, they come back to their senses. Your brain is a record of the past. It's an artifact. It's a circuits of everything you've learned and experienced to this moment. So people wake up in the morning and they think about their problems. Those problems are connected to certain people, certain things at certain times and places. The moment they start thinking about the problems, they're turning on the circuits from the past. They're memories. All those memories are connected to emotions, because emotions are the end product of past experiences. So that problem has the feeling of disgust, frustration, anger, judgment, hatred. And if how you think and how you feel creates your state of being, and thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body, that person's entire state of being is in the familiar past. And when you're in the familiar past, you crave the predictable future. So then what happens next? They come back to their senses, they sit up, they check their cell phone, they do their WhatsApp, they do their Twitter, they do their text, they do Facebook, they take a picture of their feet, they post it on Facebook, they tweet something, they check one email, they check another email, they check the news, and now their entire brain is connected to everything known in their life. Then they stand up and they go through a series of routine behaviors. They use the toilet, they go to the kitchen, have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, they go in the shower, they wash themselves the same way, they put on the same clothes, they walk out to the kitchen, they eat cereal with the same spoon, facing the same direction, they drive to work the same way, they do the same things, see the same people, they push the same emotional buttons, and they do this every day. So now their body is programmed into a predictable future based on what they did in their past, and they lost their free will to a program. And so now, if you're not getting up in the morning being defined by a vision of the future, then you'll be predictable in your life. You're left with the old memories of your past. So then, as I said, the stronger the emotion that you have some problem or person in your present reality, the more you're going to pay attention to that person or problem. And if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, all of your energy and your attention is going to all these different people and problems and places. And now, every one of those people and problems and places has a neurological network in your brain.
No matter who you are, no matter where you are in life, you can take the lid off of your job. And if you're wondering if you still have the lid on in your life, here are some clues that's going to let you know that the lid is still on. If you're not excited about waking up in the morning, if you're sitting around bored out of your mind, if you got time to do everything anybody asks you to do, you probably got the lid on. If when you tell your dreams to all your friends, it makes sense to them, you got your lid on, man. Your dreams should not make sense to everybody. You got to say something that make people go, how you going to do that? That's when you got the lid off. And if I were you, I'd do that. I'd take the lid off. Makes sense to me, don't it? I mean, look, in show business, that's all the time. You could come to work one day and they just say the show is canceled. What can you do? So what I've done is I've produced so much content. I got radio, I write books, I write movies, I do TV shows, I host TV shows, I got a game show, I do a Facebook watch show. I do so many. So when they come and they cancel something, I don't really give a damn. Because I got 8 more jobs. You know what I mean? I've just managed to stack. And then I'm always prepared. I prepare for what's coming. Here's the deal. Change is inevitable. So here's what's going to happen. No matter what's going on in your life, it's not permanent. Everything is going to change. So there's 2 things you can do with change. You can react to it or you can participate in it. It's going to change anyway. So if you keep waiting around, you're going to have to react to the change. And now you're behind. But if you participate in the change, if you know the job you have is not going to last forever. I'm just telling you. COVID proved that already. Where you go to work at every day, that's going to change. COVID proved that already. Your best laid plans has changed. So what you got to start doing is you got to start anticipating that it's going to change and just start living your life with the preparation for change. No matter what you're doing, you could be doing more. Remember that. It's 24 hours in a day. You got to use as many of those hours to prepare stability for yourself as you can. I said it online, I got in a lot of trouble. If you sleep 8 hours, you're not ever going to be rich. If you have any dreams of being rich, you cannot sleep 8 hours a day. It's only 24 hours in a day. If you sleep 8 hours, that's a third of your life. How can you cannot be asleep a third of your life and become successful. You can't. People got mad at me. They're talking about Steve Harvey prefers wealth over health. No, I'm just telling you, If your ass wants to hit it and be rich, you got to quit bullshit. You got to get your hustle and grind on. You can't sleep well, how much you sleep? I sleep between 4 and 5 hours. If I get 6 hours, woof, I'm tired. Plus I'm old. I got to get up. I want to see what today is. I can't miss nothing. Now, I'm old, man. I'm 64 years old, so I can't be laying in the bed waiting. I got to get up early. I'm up before the sun come up every day because I just want to see what else God got for me. He done gave me a lot. Might as well go see the rest of it, right? You can't see or sleep. So I've always prepared myself for what this business is. And for the first time, I've actually thought about retiring. This is the first time I've ever thought about retiring. So now I want to come home. I'm coming to Africa. The one thing that I have learned to relate to all of my children is to dream. There is nothing bigger than your dream. Nothing is greater than your dream. Now, as we sit in this great educational institution, I am not saying that your education is not important because it's tied to a lot of your dreams. But let me tell you something. There ain't nothing bigger than your dream. Because your dream will propel you to get the education. Don't you ever stop dreaming. Don't you ever stop imagining. And we're going to talk about them two things a lot. But don't you ever stop dreaming. Your Bible says a man without a dream or a vision shall perish. That's in your Bible. It ain't just in the one I read. Nowhere in there does it say without an education you perish. But it says without a dream or vision you perish. So if what you're dreaming about requires an education, it is then your dream that propels you to get the education. But the dream is bigger than anything, man. See, if it was an education that caused you to be great or successful, I ain't here today because I don't have one of them. But nobody could outdream me. Your dream is everything, man. It's the biggest part of your life. Look, man, it is that thing that God puts in you that don't let you sleep sometimes. It's your dream. It's that thing, that part of you, man, that wakes you up and stirs the very pit of your soul. I've always taught my children to dream. The secret, though, the secret to real success is if you tie your gift to the dream.
Whatever position you find yourself in today, we put ourselves there by a series of thoughts and actions. Thoughts turn into things. That's very important to know. So let's look at both sides of it. For people who think negative thoughts, it turns into negative things. And the direct opposite is true for those who think positive thoughts. It turns into positive things. That's the deal. It's as simple as that, folks. Thoughts become things. So the one glaring question for all of us always is, on a daily basis, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? What are your thoughts? Because this is a fact of life. This is biblical. This is spiritual. This is written. This is philosophical. This is the law of the universe. This is just the way it is. Now, and here the cold part, folks. It don't matter if you believe me or not. It does not matter if you have never been explained this or not. And it does not matter if you think it works in your life or not. It don't matter. Listen to me. It is the way it is. It's just whatever. It's the law of the universe. You call whatever you want to call. However you got to dress this thing up, because this all it is. So when I say that you are where we are today because we thought ourselves here, oh, you best to believe that's true. You thought yourself here. No one else. See, let me explain something. I got people around me who so badly want to take credit for it. Every man in this room, you blew your 20s. You spend all your 30s trying to make up for your 20s.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Dog, every dude in this room blew their 20s and at 30 trying to fix what they should have did in their 20s.
Yeah.
And so forth and so on. You turn 40, you're trying to recover from the mistakes you made when you're 30. Now at 40, man, it's time for you to start
Really, at 30, you need to start buckling it on down. And just realize, man, everybody make mistakes. And if the mistakes you're going through are going to help you become the person you need to be later on.
Steve Harvey.
All them mistakes, dog, they cool to make. I needed to mess up every marriage. I needed to get arrested like I did. I needed to get shot. I needed all this, dog. I needed to be homeless. I needed all them things to happen to turn me into who I am today. So when you're young and you make mistakes, don't let them eat you up. Because everybody that done made it, done made them. You got to fail in order to win. Hey, look, man, to understand how to hit the game-winning shot, you got to miss the game-winning shot. First of all, you're talking about stuff that I can relate to like so many others can relate to. I mean, you know, everybody got the same story. We just got different details. But like I always say, life is 10% what happens to you, is 90% what you do about it. See, we're going to dive into a chapter from my new book, and it's chapter 1, section 1. This is very clear for people. So the first step is getting completely and brutally honest enough to say, I am tired of myself. When you say I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's the facilitator of change. That's when you're ready to say these words, no more excuses. No more excuses. I went to Kent State, I dropped out. I didn't drop out, I flunked out. Now that threw my life into a spiral, but because I didn't have a college degree, I could not let that stop me. And like you're doing, where you're saying, all my friends at this age are settling in your careers, you don't even know if they're happy or not. Stop comparing yourself to others. So the first thing you do is stop focusing on other people. Instead, focus on being the best version of you that you can. Then you'll recognize that you deserve to sit at the big table with everybody else after you become the best that you can be. Now, once you've accepted that you have as much right to success and much right to succeed as anybody else, the next step is learning how to talk the talk. You have to get fluid in the language of success so you speak it with ease. Surround yourself with people who've accomplished their dreams and immerse yourself in the culture of achievement. You know, you got to be tough because the road to success is always under construction. It's never a clear path to success. The people who become successful are the people who have a relentless attitude. And you just got to hang in there through the bad breaks, because the bad breaks is coming. But they usually come right before the big break is about to happen. You get a series of bad breaks and it stumbles up a lot of people. My life and my success is to say to anyone, you can stumble, you can fall, you can get back up again. And like I've said before, we each have a gift. But too many people miss out because they refuse to sign the lease on their gift. You keep looking for it outside of you. Stop. Sit with yourself. What is it that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort? That's your gift. But if you are constantly looking outside of yourself and you don't latch on to your gift, you will never find your purpose. If you want to succeed, you must commit to your own gift and embrace it.
Well, same advice I give to my kids, man. If I could get them to understand the importance of their 20s. Because, man, you know what I did? I just blew my 20s. I ended up spending all of my 30s fixing what I messed up in my 30s. I spent all of my 40s doing what I could have been doing in my 30s. I looked up, man, I had let too much time slip away. If you could get young people to get their foot on the gas pedal in their 20s, because right now they think going out is everything. And I keep telling them, man, you're gonna outgrow that in a minute. Because, you know, like at this age, it's when somebody says, hey, we're gonna go out to a club tonight. What? Go out to a club? Are you kidding me? It don't make no sense to you, man. Because you're over that. But it takes a minute for them to understand it. It's sad. I wish they'd get it. I wasn't clubbing in my 20s. I didn't know how to make a vision board. I didn't know how to. What really changed my life, man, was I got in Amway when I was about 24. I got in Amway. And that changed my life, man, because the first time ever, they introduced me to self-help books. And I read 2 books that changed my life. It was The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale and The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. I read them books and it changed my life. But it also made me remember what my mother had taught me, because she was a Sunday school teacher, because all self-help books are Bible-based. Everything comes from the Bible. All of the self-help books, that's Proverbs. That's all it is. A book of wisdom and understanding. If you could read that, it'll change your life too. Sometimes you need regular books where you can relate to it differently. But it's all comes from the Bible. It's like a great book is The Secret. If you read The Secret, it's all Bible verse. It's just based on the Bible. You can't think of nothing new how to tell a person to succeed without the Bible. You can't. It doesn't work that way, you know. So a couple of books changed my life. The Magic of Thinking Big was huge. It just taught me one simple principle. It don't cost no more energy to think big than it does small. You can say Volkswagen and you can say Rolls Royce with the same amount of effort. You ain't got the grunt to say Rolls Royce. So if the Bible is true, which it says a man is as he thinketh, if you think poor thoughts, you got to be poor. The moment you change that thought into wealth of riches, you start the process to becoming wealthy or rich. It's not another trick. It's really how it works. People complicate it. You got to do this and you got to do that. But the Bible's pretty plain. They ain't got no loopholes in it. Really don't. It's just real simple. It say what it say. All you got to do is believe it's talking to you. That's what it is. Most people don't think that God is talking to them. That I come to give you life and give you life more abundantly. You don't think He's talking to you? He'll give you life more abundantly. He do. He really will. You ain't got to be rich to have an abundant life. Sometimes you just need to be healthy, happy. You could be really happy, man, making $70,000 a year. You really, really can. You don't need a few million. I did, but you didn't need a few. It helped me a little bit. But to be honest, it didn't make me happy. Until you need God. I ain't ministers. Just turn up the hood, just practice. You go to church and hear you. Come on, Father. You can pass my off and say, if you don't believe me, you ain't got to. But I can take a sentence or a thought and make it common. Now, one dude told me once, yeah, well, I hear you said it was hard, but you ain't funny to me. I ain't got to be funny to you. You've never bought a ticket to see me. No, I haven't. I still made it. It doesn't matter what nobody else thinks. What they got to do? I don't think you're funny. Listen, if you can think of something to get $10 for, I bet all of you have something that God has gifted you with that you could convince somebody to give you $10 for. I'm going to show you how to become a millionaire. All you need is to have one thing that you can get $10 for. I don't care if it's cutting hair, cutting grass, painting, babysitting, typing papers, walking dogs. I don't care what it is. Just get somebody to give you $10. All I want you to do is do it and get $10. After you get $10, I want you to do it 10 more times. That's all. You have $100. When you get that $100, whatever you did to get the $100, I want you to do it 10 more times. You're going to have $1,000. Now, get a little tricky. Whatever you did to make the $1,000, listen to me close. What I want you to do is do it 10 more times. That's what I want you to do. Don't change shit. Just do it 10 more times. You'll now have $10,000. Now, there's where you got to start using your faith. After you make $10,000 with this $10 idea, all I want you to do is do it 10 more times. Just 10, whatever you did to make the 10,000, do it 10 more times. You're going to have $100,000. Here's the trick of tricks. Once you make $100,000, you're going to have to hire a few people. All I want you to do after you make the $100,000, same thing you did to make the $100,000, I just want you to do 10. Congratulations. You are a millionaire. That's how it's done. These jokes I'm telling right now, these $25 jokes. My first gig paid me $25. These the same jokes. This just English. I ain't learned how to do this in Spanish or none of this. I just kept telling these jokes in English. 10 more times, 10 more times, 10 more. Till they started paying me $25,000 a night. Then they started paying me $100,000 a night, $150,000, $250,000 a night. I made $500,000 telling jokes in one night. They're the same jokes. I just kept telling them over and over and over and over and over. $25 jokes repeated on a 10-time multiple. You could be a millionaire babysitting. You could be a millionaire doing eyebrows. You could be a millionaire cutting grass. You could be a millionaire as a barber, painting houses. You already have the gift. God has already given you the gift. He gave it to you at birth. You was born with it. God ain't never created a soul he didn't give a birth to. That he didn't give a gift to at birth. You sitting up in here, if you're poor today, it's because you tripping. You just tripping. You done talked yourself out your God-given gift. You done got some funk job somewhere and tried to act like you was happy with it. Now they done furloughed you, now you disappointed. You ought to be jumping for joy. Walk your up the hall, go take your gift God gave you and turn yourself into a millionaire.